Salam sejahtera, anda sedang menyaksikan Niaga Awani bersama saya Nina Rozman dan kita akan mulakan dengan perkembangan ini terlebih dahulu di mana Kementerian Pelaburan Perdagangan dan Industri MITI bekerja keras untuk menarik lebih banyak pelaburan berkualiti terutamanya dalam sektor strategik seperti elektrik dan elektronik E&E. Menterinya Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Abdul Aziz berkata hasilnya ekspor E&E negara kekal kukuh dan menjadi penyumbang utama kepada pertumbuhan ekonomi negara dengan mencatatkan pertumbuhan sebanyak 4.4% bagi suku pertama 2025.
Menurutnya, ramai pelabur dari dalam dan juga luar negara yakin dengan potensi Malaysia dan meneruskan projek mereka di negara ini.
Bila pelaburan masuk, kilang buka, ekspor meningkat. Ini bermakna lebih banyak peluang pekerjaan untuk rakyat, lebih banyak peluang perniagaan untuk syarikat tempatan, terutamanya PKS kita. Memang ada cabaran di peringkat global, macam isu tarif timbal balas Amerika Syarikat, tapi kita di MITI sentiasa pantau dan ambil langkah perlu untuk pastikan perniagaan kita terus berdaya saing di peringkat antarabangsa.
Beliau berkata demikian menerusi perkongsian video di laman media sosial beliau pada Selasa. Tengku Zafrul berkata selain berunding dengan Amerika, strategi kementeriannya adalah untuk mencari dan mengembangkan pasaran baru bagi menjual barangan buatan Malaysia serta menguatkan ekonomi tempatan. Jelasnya ini reformasi ekonomi madani dan fokus MITI untuk memastikan ekonomi stabil, wujudkan lebih banyak peluang kerja dan perniagaan dan bantu rakyat hadapi kos sara hidup. Katanya kerajaan akan terus bekerja keras untuk pastikan ekonomi Malaysia terus tumbuh, stabil dan hasilnya dapat dinikmati oleh semua rakyat.
Perundingan Menteri Ekonomi ASEAN EEM dengan China, Australia, New Zealand dan Jepun secara berasingan mengesahkan komitmen mereka terhadap sistem perdagangan pelbagai hala yang bertunjangkan peraturan pertubuhan perdagangan dunia WTO. Kementerian Pelaburan, Perdagangan dan Industri MITI dalam satu kenyataan pada Selasa berkata, komitmen sedemikian menggalakkan persekitaran perdagangan dan pelaburan yang boleh diramal telus bebal, adil, inklusif, mampan, tanpa diskriminasi dan terbuka. Menterinya Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Aziz mempengerusikan ketiga-tiga sesi perundingan secara maya itu dengan Menteri Perdagangan dan Industri Timor Leste Philippus Nino Pereira bertindak sebagai pemerhati. Sesi dengan Menteri Perdagangan China Wang Wentao membincangkan impak ketegangan perdagangan global berterusan telah memberi kesan terhadap daya tahan rantaian bekalan serantau, seterusnya mengganggu susunan perdagangan global, memburukkan lagi geseran perdagangan dan melemahkan keyakinan terhadap sistem perdagangan pelbagai hala berasaskan peraturan. Tengku Zafrul berkata memandangkan pergantungan besar negara-negara ASEAN terhadap rantaian bekalan global, sebarang ketidaktentuan geopolitik dan geoekonomi utama akan menjejaskan perniagaan dan pengguna, bukan sahaja dalam ASEAN tetapi di seluruh dunia. Para menteri juga menetapkan sasaran untuk menandatangani protokol peningkatan kawasan perdagangan bebas ASEAN China 3.0, salah satu pencapaian keberhasilan utama ekonomi Malaysia sebagai pengerusi ASEAN tahun ini. Mesyuarat itu juga mengiktiraf kepentingan meluaskan hubungan perdagangan melalui inisiatif seperti Perjanjian Perkongsian Ekonomi Komprehensif Serantau RCEP, sesi dengan Menteri Perdagangan dan Pelancongan Australia Don Farrell dan Menteri Perdagangan dan Pelaburan NZ Todd McClay menyokong perjanjian mewujudkan prinsip kawasan perdagangan bebas ASEAN Australia New Zealand AAANZ-FTA yang terbuka, boleh diramal, telus berasaskan peraturan dan tanpa diskriminasi. Manakala sesi dengan Menteri Ekonomi Perdagangan dan Industri Jepun Yoji Muto menggariskan blok serantau dan komitmen Jepun untuk melaksanakan dan mempromosikan perkongsian ekonomi komprehensif ASEAN-Jepun. Beliau berkata inisiatif khusus industri dalam sektor otomotif, tenaga bersih dan pembangunan beretika, bertanggungjawab dan penggunaan kecerdasan buatan akan diterokai. Baik, kalau kita lihat inflasi bulanan April 2025 untuk Malaysia akan diumumkan insya-Allah pada tengah hari esok oleh Jabatan Perakaan Malaysia DOSM, dan kalau kita imbas kembali pada inflasi yang telah menurun pada sebanyak 1.4% pada Mac 2025 dengan inflasi teras kekal stabil pada 1.9% disokong oleh dasar terdahulu dan penurunan harga komoditi seperti tarif air dan juga elektrik. Namun tekanan luar semakin dirasai susulan tarif tinggi yang dikenakan Amerika Syarikat terhadap beberapa negara ASEAN seperti Kemboja, Vietnam dan Myanmar. Ketidaksamarataan ini menjejaskan rantaian bekalan serantau dan boleh mencetuskan inflasi import. Sebagai pengerusi ASEAN 2025, Malaysia memimpin pendekatan yang kolektif serantau untuk pastikan ekonomi rantau ini kekal stabil dan mampan dalam menghadapi cabaran global. Mungkin ini masanya untuk kita mencari suara bersama, belajar dari pengalaman negara jiran dan membina penyelesaian yang pantas, berdaya saing dan juga mampan untuk menghadapi cabaran global yang dikatakan semakin kompleks. Dengan itu saya mempersilakan Dr. Fitrah Faisal Asyadi merupakan ahli ekonomi kanan Samuel Securities Indonesia. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Doktor kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami melihat kepada sidang kemuncak ASEAN pada minggu hadapan. Kita nak melihat bagaimanakah ASEAN akan mengundi hala tuju untuk setiap negara dengan lebih jelas, dan kali ini kita akan beri tumpuan khusus kepada inflasi, kawalan harga barang. Melihat kepada data inflasi bulanan ini, adakah akan diumumkan mungkin bakal menunjukkan kesan langsung daripada tekanan tarif Amerika Syarikat, terutamanya terhadap harga barang ekspor ASEAN yang kini berdepan dengan kos tambahan. Kerana ada yang berkata mungkin kesan impak tarif ini kita akan meliti untuk suku kedua ataupun suku-suku yang seterusnya. Pandangan Dr. Fitrah.
Memang selalu ada potensi inflasi ya, terutama berasal dari cost of production. Tetapi saya melihat bahwa hasil ya dari tarif Trump ini belum akan kelihatan dalam waktu dekat. Apalagi kita melihat ada tarif halt ya untuk yang periode pertama antara US to the rest of the world excluding China. Yang kemudian di episode kedua kita juga melihat bagaimana US juga melakukan tarif halt terhadap China, sehingga refleksi dari kenaikan ongkos produksi akibat dari tarif itu belum betul-betul kelihatan ya. Dan untuk data Indonesia sementara ini kami juga masih melihat bahwa inflasi masih under control. Apalagi untuk kondisi Indonesia dan mungkin mayoritas negara ASEAN itu memasuki masa panen raya ya di first quarter this year ya, sehingga harga komoditas belum menjadi permasalahan. Tetapi ketika nanti dari tarif halt ini, terutama untuk mayoritas negara-negara selain China yang akan kemudian diakhiri pada tanggal 4 Juli ya, kalau tidak salah, itu kita akan bisa melihat dinamika barunya. Apakah kemudian hasil negosiasi ya antara negara-negara ASEAN dengan US itu berhasil menemukan titik temu atau sebaliknya. Tetapi sementara ini saya masih melihat bahwa apa yang kita lakukan sebagai ASEAN, baik secara individual maupun secara grup, itu sudah sangat baik sekali ya diterima oleh Amerika Serikat ya. Terutama dalam hal ini kalau kita bicara Indonesia dan Malaysia, dalam beberapa simulasinya itu justru dengan keberadaan tarif ini itu mendapatkan limpahan manfaat dari investment reallocation ya untuk de-risking dari US maupun China. Jadi dan tidak hanya Indonesia dan Malaysia, bahkan mayoritas negara-negara ASEAN juga punya potensi untuk mendapatkan limpahan manfaat tersebut. Kembali lagi ke potensi inflasi, dari sisi ongkos produksi saya lihat belum ada refleksi ya di data terkini atau data yang terbaru. Bahkan di US sendiri kalau kita melihat bagaimana fenomena dari Producers Price Index yang mencerminkan ongkos produksi di US itu bahkan anjlok ya dari posisi bulan yang sebelumnya itu 3,4%, terus di bulan yang terbaru data yang terakhir itu 2,4% ya. Jadi turun 1% dari posisi sebelumnya. Nah ini sebenarnya mengindikasikan bahwa even in the US yang mereka mengalami dan menjadi pusat tarif tersebut, dan seharusnya mereka yang paling pertama terkena dampak tarif tersebut, tapi tidak terefleksi atau belum terefleksi di data purchasing Producers Price Index mereka. Dan bahkan ya dari sisi jobless claims, saya juga masih melihat bahwa unemployment rate atau potensi unemployment rate di US masih dalam kondisi yang stabil, bisa dilihat dari data jobless claims yang juga stagnan ya, tidak ada perubahan cukup signifikan, bahkan sesuai dengan konsensus. Jadi kekhawatiran akan adanya spike dari inflasi di bulan ini sepertinya belum akan terjadi, tetapi kita masih akan melihat dinamikanya di bulan-bulan berikutnya. Ini juga yang menjadi concern dari The Fed ya, terkait dengan potensi inflasi ke depan yang dari Amerika Serikat, meskipun sudah ada potensi penurunan tarif antara US dengan China 10% versus 30%, tetapi itu tidak kemudian menghapuskan potensi inflasi ke depan, karena memang setelah tarif halt ini kita masih melihat, mungkin masih akan melihat dinamika-dinamika baru. Nina.
Baik, jelas seperti yang Dr. Fitra kongsikan pada ketika ini belum nampak lagi reflect secara besar kesan ataupun impak jelas daripada pelaksanaan tarif ini. Namun apa yang telah dilakukan oleh negara-negara ASEAN secara individu maupun secara kolektif bersama adalah berada dalam keadaan baik dan dikatakan on the right track ketika ini. Namun kita meliti pada waktu ataupun keadaan semasa mungkin dikatakan belum nampak lagi kesan besar kerana tarif adalah berada dalam keadaan pos ketika ini dalam tempoh 90 hari. Dan mungkin kalau kita lihat banyak negara dalam proses rundingan dan melihat kepada potensi ada penurunan tarif antara two big brothers iaitu Amerika dan juga China. Namun potensi untuk inflasi turun tu belum ada lagi seperti yang Dr. Fitra kongsikan. Jadi melihat kepada potensi-potensi ini, bagaimana negara-negara ASEAN termasuk Malaysia dan Indonesia walaupun kita dikenakan antara tarif yang agak rendah berbanding negara-negara ASEAN lain seperti Laos, Vietnam dan Myanmar. Bagaimana untuk kita mengekang kenaikan harga barang pengguna apabila tekanan kos dalam rantai bekalan semakin meningkat akibat dasar pelindungan perdagangan Amerika Syarikat ini?
Artinya kita harus mencari strategi-strategi baru, tidak hanya kemudian tergantung pada pasar Amerika Serikat. Tentunya kalau hanya terkonsentrasi di pasar Amerika Serikat, kita memiliki potensi negara-negara ASEAN untuk meningkatkan potensi kenaikan ya produksi atau inflasi itu sendiri. Tapi di sisi yang lain, ketika kita melakukan diversifikasi trade partners, dan ini yang sedang dilakukan ASEAN juga ya, karena sedang melakukan negosiasi dua kamar sekaligus, dual chambers negotiations, di satu sisi dengan US secara bilateral, tapi di sisi yang lain ASEAN member countries juga sedang mengupayakan untuk melakukan perkongsian-perkongsian lain dengan negara-negara lain secara regional dan juga multilateral. Ini adalah strategi yang harus kita ambil untuk mendiversifikasi potensi risiko dari inflasi ya, dan untuk kemudian memperkuat jaringan rantai produksi kita sehingga tidak terlalu terdisrupsi. Tetapi saya melihat potensi kenaikan inflasi tersebut itu akan menjadi subject to kenaikan tarif. Dan untungnya dalam beberapa hasil negosiasi ya, saya melihat bahwa ada potensi tarif itu diturunkan karena sebagaimana yang kita tahu, cara atau model perhitungan subjektif dari Amerika Serikat mengenai reciprocal tariff sebenarnya it's not really a reciprocal tariff. Kalau kita bicara reciprocal tariff, referensinya adalah WTO. Tapi saya tidak melihat referensi itu ada di WTO, tapi US menggunakan referensinya sendiri, yaitu trade gap, ya, bagaimana menipiskan defisit. Jadi bagaimana defisit dibagi juga impornya itu menjadi nol. Nah intinya adalah bagaimana negara-negara ASEAN bisa menawarkan konsesi untuk membeli barang-barang US ya sehingga defisitnya bisa nol. Ketika defisit menjadi nol dan itu menjadi dasar dari perhitungan tarif resiprokal, maka tarif kita juga kemungkinan besar akan menjadi 0%. Jadi saya melihat bahwa potensi inflasi masih ada, tetapi hasil dari negosiasi menunjukkan bahwa probabilitas ya terjadinya atau menuju tarif 0% itu cukup terbuka. Apalagi concern dari US itu memang bagaimana cara balancing trade, menipiskan defisit. Dan itu yang sekarang sedang dilakukan oleh negara-negara ASEAN. Untuk contoh kasus di Indonesia, kami sudah kemudian menawarkan untuk membeli beberapa barang-barang dari US, seperti misalnya defense equipment, soybeans, wheat, dan seterusnya, yang mana itu akan memiliki potensi untuk menipiskan defisit dan kemudian membuat tarif resiprokal itu menjadi turun. Dan ini saya rasa menjadi strategi mayoritas negara-negara ASEAN untuk offering concession ya to the US.
Concession to the US, dan kalau kita lihat daripada langkah Trump yang daripada reciprocal tariff di minimum tarif ini dan tarif asas, mungkin dilihat sebagai bukannya US ataupun pasar Amerika Syarikat bukan sahaja takut ataupun bimbang dengan kalau kita lihat usaha dagang perdagangan oleh China, tapi senampaknya mereka seperti mahu dominate lanskap global. Jadi dalam konteks ketidaktentuan global ketika ini, sejauh manakah keberkesanan usaha integrasi pasaran ASEAN dan perluasan perdagangan intrarantau dapat menjadi penampan kepada gelombang inflasi yang didorong terutamanya oleh tarif luar, antara yang perkara yang kita tidak dapat kawal dengan mudah sekali?
Ya, saya rasa tetap perkongsian ya serantau ASEAN, meningkatkan integrasi ASEAN merupakan salah satu cara atau upaya kita untuk kemudian menangkal segala potensi buruk dari dampak tarif Trump. Sebagai contoh, ketika krisis ekonomi di tahun 1998 yang menerjang mayoritas negara-negara Asia, ya, terutama ASEAN dan juga Asia Timur, itu setelah itu ada FTA, Free Trade Agreement, and also Regional Trade Agreement flourishing in ASEAN plus countries. Kita melihat bagaimana agresivitas dari China, agresivitas dari Jepang, Korea Selatan, Australia, New Zealand, dan juga mayoritas negara-negara ASEAN untuk berkongsi bersama, membuat institusi perdagangan lebih formal, itu bisa membantu kita menangkal risiko di tahun 2008 ya, ketika terjadi global financial crisis. Jadi kata kuncinya adalah ketika kita berkongsi secara regional dan multilateral, itu menjadi salah satu penangkal utama untuk menghadapi beberapa risiko ekonomi. Tidak hanya inflasi, tapi juga risiko pelambatan ekonomi, risiko depresiasi nilai tukar, dan seterusnya. Sehingga saya rasa yang tetap bisa dijalankan adalah ASEAN bisa menjalankan tugas-tugas, fungsi-fungsi, dan negosiasi-negosiasi secara multilateral regional, excluding the US, tapi kita juga bisa menjalankan negosiasi bilateral dengan US, karena caranya dari US saat ini adalah bilateral negotiations. Tapi itu saya rasa itu suatu hal yang bisa dimaklumi, karena US sendiri juga sedang melakukan upaya-upaya untuk melakukan formalisasi perdagangan, seperti misalnya US-UK trade deals. Itu mereka lakukan di tengah tarif Trump. Dan ini menjadi semacam peluang juga buat kita untuk kemudian mempertegas keperkongsian kita dengan negara-negara global, ya, tidak hanya dengan US tapi juga dengan negara-negara lain ya, yang dibuat secara institusional ya, dengan trade agreements, baik itu bilateral maupun regional trade agreements, gitu Nina.
Dan kita harap walaupun rundingan ataupun agreements yang dilakukan bukan saja dapat tangani krisis seperti tarif dan inflasi, tetapi segala risiko ekonomi seperti yang Dr. Fitra kongsikan sebentar tadi. Dan kita harap yang terbaik sedang ataupun menjelang sidang kemuncak Asia 2025 yang akan berlangsung pada minggu hadapan. Tentu di Astro ini akan membawakan perkembangan dari semasa ke semasa. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Dr. Fitra Faisal Hastiadi, merupakan ahli ekonomi kanan Samuel Securities Indonesia, dan setiap perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astrawani.com dan di semua platform digital Astro Awani. Baik, kita akan teruskan dengan perkembangan seterusnya dengan Pusat Pameran Antarabangsa Masuri Langkawi menyaksikan kesibukan luar biasa apabila anggota unit beruniform terus memperkemas segala persiapan untuk hari kedua Pameran Antarabangsa Maritim dan Aero Angkasa Langkawi 5 2025. Dari sesi raptai, kawalan keselamatan hinggalah kepada penyelarasan teknikal, semua dilakukan dengan penuh disiplin. Untuk melihat sendiri suasana persiapan pagi ini di Langkawi, kita terus saja bersama Nabila Khalida, wartawan Astro Awani yang kini berada di lokasi. Silakan Nabila.
Baik, saya masih lagi berada di 5 2025 yang bertempat di Pusat Pameran Antarabangsa Mahsuri di Langkawi untuk hari kedua selepas kita saksikan pelancaran Gilang Gemilang semalam dengan gimmick yang dilakukan oleh Tentera Udara Diraja Malaysia. Tapi hari ini saya nak bawakan perspektif yang berbeza sedikit. Kalau semalam saya bawakan perbincangan bersama dengan NICO Malaysia, tapi kita akan bersama dengan pegawai-pegawai unit beruniform di Malaysia, iaitu hero-hero di Malaysia ini yang menjaga ataupun memastikan keselamatan dan juga industri pertahanan kita kekal kukuh. Jadi kita akan terus bersama dengan orang kuat dari polis negara, ketua polis negara sendiri, iaitu ACP Loh PP. Puan Loh boleh bersama dengan saya pada ketika ini. Mungkin bagaimana perasaan ataupun semangat untuk hari kedua ni? Apa aktiviti yang akan disajikan untuk pengunjung-pengunjung di 5 2025?
Hari ini kita ada banyak show kan, air show semua tu, yang di mana semalam pun saya dah terkejut dengan air show kat sini, dan saya harap semua orang dapat datang hari ini. Memang seronok kat sini air show dia, and then kita polis-polis pun ramai, boleh datang bergambar dengan kami sekali.
Kalau tengok mereka pakai unit uniform ni mungkin gerun tapi bila dengar Puan Loh cakap semua, ya Allah, ceria je sebenarnya polis-polis kita. Mungkin kalau boleh kongsikan persiapan untuk sepanjang menjelang 5 2025 ni, berapa lama masa yang diambil, dan mungkin apa antara mungkin persiapan ataupun aktiviti persiapan tu, kalau Puan Loh boleh kongsikan.
Okey, untuk makluman semua, untuk especially PDRM lah, kami dah buat persiapan sejak tahun lepas lagi. At least lebih kurang 1 tahun lah kami kena ambil persiapan tu. Khasnya dari segi keselamatan. Sebab kita polis ni dihaskan untuk tugas keselamatan. So kami banyaklah kami meeting, lawatan tapak dan juga semua aktiviti yang all the activities yang terlibat ni kita ambil berat dan kita memang bagi perhatian untuk keselamatan. So semua datang ni, datanglah untuk support kita dan juga support 5.
Okey. Baik, terima kasih Puan Loh dan juga tuan-tuan dan puan-puan dari Ketua Polis Negara. Selamat berjuang dan selamat berkhidmat untuk sepanjang hujung 5 2025. Terima kasih banyak. Baik, itu adalah antara perkongsian dari unit Ketua Polis Negara kita dan seterusnya kita akan bersama dengan pasukan Tentera Udara Diraja Malaysia sendiri, TUDM. Kalau kita boleh bersama dengan Major Zafarin Nordin. Mungkin boleh kongsikan selamat pagi, mungkin apa khabar terlebih dahulu?
Okey, alhamdulillah saya sihat setelah hampir 9 hari saya di sini. Setibanya pesawat yang pertama daripada luar negara yang datang, saya dan tim saya telah berada di sinilah.
Okey. Jadi untuk hari kedua selepas pelancaran semalam memang kita tengok TUDM ni perform lah di udara. Mungkin boleh kongsikan Major persiapan itu. Mungkin bukan mudah tapi ini bukan benda yang baru juga untuk TUDM. Mungkin bagaimana persiapan itu sendiri?
Okey, pertama sekali memang lima ni diadakan setiap 2 tahun sekali. Untuk tahun ni 525 Langkawi dengan tema dia Innovative Today, Thrive Tomorrow. So memberi satu nafas barulah kepada Lima untuk kita sama-sama dapat lihatlah. Okey, untuk persiapan kita seperti yang saya beritahu tadi, untuk tim saya Sekretariat Aero Angkasa bagi kawalan keselamatan pesawat telah berada 13 hari bulan Mei yang lalu sehinggalah pesawat terakhir yang akan terbang keluarlah daripada lapangan terbang Langkawi, antarabangsa Langkawi ini. So persiapan dia kita banyak menerima ni lah daripada ground crew, daripada crew pesawat-pesawat diorang dan ada sekretariat yang menjaga tempat untuk static display dan juga untuk hot bay lah. So untuk makluman semua, untuk pada hari ini dan esok kita akan buka kepada trade visitor ataupun exhibition. So kemudian pada 23 dan 24 Mei 2025, Jumaat dan Sabtu kita akan open kepada orang awam lah. So datanglah ramai-ramai di Dewan, ada banyaklah pempamer dan juga di kawasan pesawat ada static display dan juga ada airshow.
Okay, untuk operasi kawalan keselamatan ni, kalau kita lihat pasukan Handau juga ataupun pasukan TUDM sendiri pun mungkin penuh memenuhi kawasan tarmac di MIEC ni. Mungkin kalau boleh Major kongsikan berapa jumlah anggaran anggota yang turut serta pada kali ini?
Okey, anggaran untuk petugas-petugas ni ramailah. Untuk tim saya sendiri dalam 110, 120 orang lah. Dan termasuk yang kru-kru semua boleh mencecah lebih kepada 6 ke 700 petugas.
Okey. Baik, terima kasih banyak Major atas masa yang dikongsikan untuk pagi ini. Dan kita kalau boleh lihat di sekeliling saya juga ada banyak pegawai-pegawai unit beruniform seperti abang-abang bomba yang baru saja lalu tadi. Mungkin di sebelah sana mungkin pegawai-pegawai tentera. Kalau kita boleh lihat, ini adalah suasana ataupun situasi sekitar jam 7.30 pagi di MIEC Langkawi ini. Dan banyak lagi saya akan kongsikan dalam buletin-buletin awal ini dan juga Awani 7.45 pada malam ini. Jadi teruskan bersama saya Nabilah Khalidah dan juru kamera Sujen Tiran dari Langkawi kembali ke studio.
Baik, terima kasih Nabila dan juga Sujen yang sudah kita lihat kemeriahan raptai persediaan di sana sebelum majlis akan bermula secara rasmi untuk hari kedua ini. Dan untuk pengetahuan anda, Nabila dan Sujen akan berada di sana di Langkawi sepanjang seminggu di sana untuk membawakan anda perkembangan secara langsung dan eksklusif bagaimanakah kemeriahan 5 pada 2025. Dan jangan ke mana-mana, banyak lagi laporan yang akan kami bawakan di mana kami akan berdirehat seketika dan kembali selepas ini.
Nak coklat? Hari ni tak boleh. Nanti saya kena dengan mak saya.
Pepsodent baharu disahkan halal. Microkalsium aktif dan Proflorida Complex membantu memperbaiki lubang halus akibat makanan manis sebelum menjadi kaviti untuk pelindungan maksimum. Pepsodent.
Aku dibesarkan bersama-sama Syamsi. 3 jaga 3. Tak sangka Syamsi berbelok. Kerja keruang man. Tapak Syamsir.
Kalau kita tangkap keluang man, orang awam akan keji kita. Dia bagai seorang pahlawan.
Yang jadi pembela pada yang tiada upaya.
Itu bukan cerita Batman ke?
Ni cerita lain dah.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro Awani menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Baik, di Niaga Awani akan terus bawa perkembangan mengenai nilai mata wang ringgit bersama prestasi pasaran tempatan FBM KLCI, dan saya akan mulakan dengan nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat setakat 21 Mei 2025 pagi Rabu ini. Ia berada pada paras 4.281 dan ini adalah prestasi nilai ringgit yang terkini yang dapat kita saksikan dalam tempoh seminggu 7 hari lebih kurang 15 April sehinggalah 21 April. Ini adalah pergerakan nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding USD mempunyai pergerakan yang agak naik turun yang amat ketara, dan range ataupun pergerakan antara yang tertinggi telah direkodkan lebih kurang pada paras 4.2657 dan antara yang terendah ia telah dicatat pada paras 4.3139, dan ini juga merupakan antara range ataupun pergerakan nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat sepanjang minggu ini dalam tempoh seminggu. Dan kita akan beralih kepada prestasi pasaran saham tempatan, iaitu untuk meneliti bagaimanakah FBM KLCI setakat pagi ini. Ia berada pada 1551.63, dan kalau kita nak meneliti bagaimanakah prestasi penutup Bursa Malaysia yang telah mengakhiri semalam dagangan Selasa dengan bercampur-campur berikutan ketiadaan pemangkin baharu dan seiring prestasi pasaran serantau yang menguncup, dan pada 5 petang Selasa indeks petunjuk utama turun 7.27 mata atau 0.47% kepada 1548.87 sehingga itu adalah penutup, dan sehingga kini ini adalah paras pembukaan. Dan dalam tempoh 5 hari pergerakan Bursa Malaysia ataupun pasaran tempatan Malaysia mengalami trend penurunan seperti anda dapat lihat jelas di graf ini, dan antara range terendah ataupun paras terendah telah direkodkan oleh Bursa Malaysia adalah paras 1548.87 dan yang tertinggi telah direkodkan pada Khamis lepas adalah 1584.57, dan Bursa Malaysia pada pagi ini mengalami peningkatan pada 2.79 ataupun 0.18%, dan ini adalah secara tepat mengikut website ini pada jam 9.16 pagi. Prestasi Bursa Malaysia sekali lagi berada pada 1551.53, dan sudah tentu kami akan bawakan pelbagai lagi perkembangan dari pasaran tempatan hinggalah ke peringkat global untuk anda saksikan daripada pasaran US market dan juga Asia market di Niaga Awani, dan kita akan teruskan dengan laporan ataupun ringkasan Awani International. EU foreign ministers on Tuesday agreed to lift economic sanctions on Syria, the bloc's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas said. The European Union's policy shift comes after President Donald Trump said last week he would order the lifting of US sanctions on Syria.
The European Union's top diplomat also said that there will be a review of EU's trade agreement with Israel amid the untenable situation in Gaza.
On Syria, the ministers agreed to lift all economic sanctions while maintaining those related to Assad regime and human rights violations. This decision is reversible and conditional also on progress. There can be no peace without the path to economic recovery, and we all need a stable Syria. Is everything really ideal there? No, it is not. It's very clear. but I think we need to give the Syrian people a chance. It is clear from today's discussion that there is a strong majority in favor of review of Article 2 of our association agreement with Israel. So we will launch this exercise, and in the meantime, it is up to Israel to unblock the humanitarian aid. Saving lives must be our top priority.
International pressure on Israel has mounted in recent days as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government has launched a renewed military offensive in Gaza. Kala said a strong majority of EU foreign ministers meeting in Brussels favored such a review of the bloc's association agreement with Israel in light of events in Gaza.
But I can say it was a huge...
Britain's Foreign Secretary David Lammy announced on Tuesday that Britain had paused free trade talks with Israel, summoned its ambassador and announced further sanctions against West Bank settlers after Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he was horrified by the military escalation in Gaza. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the offensive was not the way to bring remaining hostages home, called for Israel to end the blockade of aid and condemn what he called extremism in some sections of Israel's government.
Britain also sanctioned a number of individuals and groups in the West Bank who it said had been linked to acts of violence against Palestinians. The move comes after Britain imposed sanctions on a number of settlers and settler organizations in 2024, targeting individuals and groups which it said had sponsored violence against Palestinian communities in the West Bank.
Therefore, today, I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement. We will be reviewing cooperation with them under the 2030 bilateral roadmap. The Netanyahu's government's actions have made this necessary. Madam Deputy Speaker, today, my honourable friend, the Minister for the Middle East, is summoning the Israeli ambassador to the Foreign Office to convey this message. Today, we are therefore imposing sanctions on a further 3 individuals and 4 entities involved in the settler movement. I have seen for myself the consequences of settler violence, the fear of its victim, the impunity of its perpetrators. Today, we are demonstrating again that we will continue to act against those who are carrying out heinous abuses of human rights.
The Israeli military announced the start of a new operation last week, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israel would take control of the whole of Gaza. Israel has blocked the entry of medical, food and fuel supplies into Gaza since the start of March, and international experts have warned of looming famine.
President Donald Trump on Tuesday pressed his fellow Republicans in the U.S. Congress to unite behind a sweeping tax cut bill, but apparently failed to convince a handful of holdouts who could still block a package that encompasses much of his domestic agenda. In a closed-door meeting on Capitol Hill, Trump bluntly warned Republicans in the House of Representatives not to press for further changes to the sprawling bill, which would cut taxes and tighten eligibility for the Medicaid health program.
He strongly cautioned against further plans to make it more difficult for people to access Medicaid, a program for low-income Americans. Trump also discouraged Republicans from seeking further carve-outs of state and local tax payments, a niche issue that is especially important for moderate Republicans in high-tax states like California and New York. After the meeting, Trump predicted the package would ultimately pass the House, which Republicans control by a narrow majority of 220 against 213.
This is the greatest bill that will ever, I think it's the most important bill this country just about has ever done in terms of size and scope. That's why we call it the great, big, beautiful deal. I mean, it really is. The bill is, I think it's going to be one of the most important. It's the biggest tax reduction in history. Biggest regulation reduction in history. Incredible for Medicaid, for Medicare. The only thing, we're going to leave it exactly as it was, other than for obviously waste, fraud, and abuse. We're strengthening it. We're going to make these things even stronger. The Democrats are going to destroy Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And we're going to keep them, but even make them stronger.
The bill would extend the 2017 tax cuts that were Trump's signature first-term legislative achievement and also add tax breaks on income from tips and overtime pay that were part of his populist push on the campaign trail. Non-partisan analysts say it could add $3 trillion to $5 trillion to federal government's $36.2 trillion in debt.
Federal Reserve officials said on Tuesday that the higher prices are coming on the back of rising U.S. import tariffs, with the open questions now whether the inflation shock will be fleeting or more persistent. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic said businesses have shown a trend to pass down the cost of tariffs to end prices.
Bostic, who now expects the U.S. Central Bank will have to wait longer to have clarity about the economy's direction and make any changes to interest rates. He also anticipates only a single quarter percentage point cut in the Fed's policy rate this year and several months on the sidelines waiting for the effect of Trump administration policies to become clear. So far, the main impact appears to be in sentiment surveys showing households and businesses are less confident about the economic horizon and expect higher inflation. In an interview with Bloomberg Television on Tuesday, Stephen Miran, who chairs the White House's Council of Economic Advisers, pushed back the idea that the tariffs imposed by the administration so far and potentially added in coming weeks would result in meaningful inflation. But Fed officials and analysts say they expect the impact has just not filtered through yet to the economy. Walmart, the world's largest retailer and major importer of goods from China, said last week that the price increases were on the way, comments that drew a rebuff from President Donald Trump. The waiting game for Fed officials may prove a long one. The central bank has kept its policy rate in the current 4.25% to 4.50% range since December, but says it will remain difficult to anticipate where the economy is heading until the tariff issue and other policies are settled for good and enough time lapses after that to gauge the impact.
And Elon Musk said on Tuesday he plans to significantly cut political spending and is committed to staying on as Tesla CEO for another 5 years, aiming to address concerns about balancing his role at the automaker with his involvement in the Trump administration. Musk's comments at an economic forum in Qatar could have large implications for next year's midterm elections, as he has been Republican political mega donor.
Hello, share price. Well, tell me then how committed you are to Tesla. Do you see yourself, and are you committed to still being the chief executive of Tesla in 5 years' time?
Yes. And I'm not someone who's ever committed violence. And yet, massive violence was committed against my companies. Massive violence was threatened against me. Who are these people? Why would they do that? How wrong can they be? They're on the wrong side of history, and that's an evil thing to do. In terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Musk, who also leads other companies including rocket maker SpaceX, reiterated that the satellite internet service Starlink might go public at some point in the future.
U.S. stocks fell on Tuesday with the benchmark S&P 500 ending 6 straight sessions of gains under pressure from rising Treasury yields, with the U.S. sovereign debt profile in focus. President Donald Trump traveled to Capitol Hill seeking to persuade Republican lawmakers to pass a sweeping tax cut bill, which analysts estimate will possibly add $3 trillion to $5 trillion to the federal government's $36.2 trillion in debt.
The Dow Jones snapped 3 consecutive sessions of gains and the Nasdaq fell after a 2-session winning streak. 8 out of 11 of the S&P 500's sectors fell, led by losses in energy, communication services, consumer discretionary stocks, utilities, healthcare and consumer staples equities made gains.
What's happening really today, and really when you look at just a week ago, stocks have taken a big pause. VIX went at the height from 60 down to where it's now 18, and you're getting this sideways motion, maybe up just a bit, 1.5 on the S&P and Dow. The reality of what's happening is the market took a breather. And the breather happened from we all know what, tariff pushing out, some negotiations, Britain under his belt, China happening. It's not a deal. It's an ongoing negotiation, but it's big. And they pushed that out 90 days. That comes up in August. The first 90 day, by the way, comes up July 9th, right in the beginning of third quarter earnings season. So you'll start to see where that plays out for earnings. But at the end of the day, there's a kind of a calm before the storm. Who knows? Either way, it was a big rebound. To give you an idea of how big, NASDAQ 100 up 25% from the bottom. And when you go back to the history of NASDAQ, there had basically in 1985, NASDAQ 100 had 8 bearish time frames. 4 of those 8, it dropped, it came back, and then dropped down further. It was a bull fake out. Is this going to be the 5th? We'll see. And I think that's what's concerning, what's going on right now.
Investors were also eyeing commentary on the monetary policy outlook from several Federal Reserve officials, including St. Louis Fed President Alberto Mussolem. Moody's and the other big ratings agencies, Fitch and S&P Global Ratings, have downgraded the U.S. sovereign credit, citing the government's debt profile.
All right, in the Awani International, we're also going to take a look at what's happening in the U.S. stock market. I'm going to start with one of the largest sectors within the S&P 500. And each of these boxes, or we can say that stocks, is categorized by sectors and industry, and every size represents the market caps. With Microsoft first, is up by 0.15% as of this morning. And the recent updates on Microsoft, it will add an artificial intelligence coding agent from Google backup startup Anthropic to its GitHub service. And coding agents can carry out software development tasks such as fixing bugs on human developers' behalf. Microsoft on Monday introduced its own coding agent to GitHub, a Microsoft-owned service that many software companies use to manage their code bases. Executive Vice President Jay Parif said at Microsoft Annual Software Developer Conference on Tuesday that the company will also offer Anthropic's coding agent in GitHub. Microsoft said earlier this week that it will also offer a coding agent from OpenAI, underscoring Microsoft's transition to a more neutral silence in the AI race. And that is for Microsoft. NVIDIA, one of the biggest company or industry within the semiconductor, is down by 0.88% this morning. And also Apple within the technology sector down by 0.92%. And the latest update for Apple is supplier Foxconn will invest $1.5 billion in its India unit. The company said in a filing as the iPhone maker shifts more manufacturing out of tariff-hit China. Foxconn Singapore-based subsidiary will buy 12.77 billion shares worth 10 rupees apiece, amounting to 127.74 billion rupees, which is $1.50 billion in Yuzhan Technology India, according to the London Stock Exchange filing. Yuzhan Technology India, Foxconn's unit in Tamil Nadu, manufactures electronic components and also assembles Apple's iPhones. Apple is positioning India as an alternative manufacturing base amid U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs on China, which have raised supply chain concerns and fear of higher iPhone prices. And next, we're going to move on to Amazon, is down by 1.01% this morning. And also Tesla, one of the biggest, we can say, companies, automaker by Elon Musk, is up by 0.51% as of this morning on Wednesday. And next we have Meta is down by 0.52%. Is also Google is down higher than Meta by 1.52%. And the recent updates on Google, Google said it would put artificial intelligence into the hands of more web servers while teasing a $249.99 a month subscription for its AI-powered users. Its latest effort to fend off growing competition from startups like OpenAI. Google unveiled the plans amid a flurry of demos that included new smart glasses during its annual I/O conference in Mountain View, California, which has adopted a tone of increased urgency since the rise of generative AI challenged the tech company's long-time stronghold of organizing and retrieving information on the internet. And next we have also from the Home Depot, the home improvement retail sector is down by 0.61%. And we're going to bring from the consumer perspective within the S&P 500, which Home Depot said it will keep prices unchanged despite US tariffs that might, however, make some products unavailable at the home improvement chain, which also reported that first quarter sales beat estimates. Billy Basic, Home Depot's Executive Vice President of Merchandising, told analysts on a post-earnings call that the company intends to maintain pricing across our portfolio, but that means some products could disappear from shelves. Basic said there's items that we have that could potentially be impacted from a tariff that candidly they won't have going forward if it doesn't make sense inside the line structure. He did not name any specific items that might be affected. Consumer-facing companies are among the most affected by US President Donald Trump's high tariffs on imports. Several have issued gloomy quarterly results and pulled annual forecasts due to economic uncertainty, and the nation's largest retailer Walmart warned last week that the shoppers could soon face higher prices due tariff. And that is the update within the S&P 500 we're going to see as of this morning. And please stay tuned with us to get for more US market and also the locals performance only on Niaga Awani. And we're going to continue with the World Economic Forum updates right after this.
Even a very short immersive experience using VR did help lower those anxiety scores. Before surgery, in the preoperative area, the nurses are in and out, doctors are in and out, and it's really a kind of a fast-paced, busy type of morning for the patients before surgery. In the United States, we have an opioid addiction epidemic, and I think that there is growing awareness to a lot of these medications that can be addicting. I feel like patients, especially for patients with heart disease, have to take so many medicines just for their heart disease. I think they're overwhelmed, and just another medication just seems to add even more anxiety to them. Like, oh gosh, I just don't want to be taking all of these medicines. We also looked at things like pulse rate, oxygen level, things like that. So there were some physiological changes. It was scenes from nature, these things that we would think that could that relax us, but you could imagine with VR, knowing if we met the patient preoperatively, what their interests were. Do they like the beach? Do they like the mountains? Are they a farmer and they just like to be on their tractor? We could create a personalized, immersive experience, or even put pictures of their families or their hometown. In medicine, sometimes we kind of scoff or turn our noses up to new things, and we just have our blinders on. Oh, just give them a medicine and they'll be relaxed and out cold. We always tend to do things just the way we've always done them. I understand that, and there's a little bit of the uncomfortability of trying something new, but that's why we start with a pilot and then a small study and then maybe even a bigger study, and then we can make improvements to it.
The forest is the lung of our planet, and what we are particularly interested in is to get information on the flow of the carbon cycle flow. So what we want to measure is how much of the fossil fuel that is burned and produces CO2, how much of that goes into the forests and stays there and is captured. And we do several maps over the years in order to see the changes. That is the main goal of the mission.
tariffs on imports of products from China reaching up to 145%.
Tariffs on the rest of the world are sitting at 10%, with the potential for reciprocal tariffs to be reimposed within 90 days.
Kunjungan rasmi Presiden China ke Malaysia ini menunjukkan komitmen kedua-dua negara untuk meningkatkan hubungan diplomatik ke tahap yang lebih strategik.
This little girl has been through such a tragic experience.
Her little eyes are weeping, she holds her head low. Signs that I've seen out in the wild of young calves that have been abandoned and are on their way out.
Naledi is losing weight and she's becoming skinny and weak.
I don't give her more than 2-3 days.
Watch the incredible true life story of a baby elephant's fight for survival and the determined men who saved her in Naledi, A Baby Elephant's Tale. Monday night on Global Trekker.
Amanda, look outside.
Amanda, stop playing your phone. Look outside.
Wow, it's too greenish. Wow, it's so beautiful. Grandpa, nyanyi.
Amanda.
Grandpa, I miss you so much. I want to live here. How are you, Grandpa?
Atuk, Nenek. Atuk sihat. Mari, naik atas.
Dad, I so bored.
Fi, walau ke mana kita melangit, bahasa kita jangan lupa.
Atuk, sawah padi terbentang luas, nyor berlambai di hujung kali. Indah di hati, jiwa terbebas. Bahasa Melayu sentiasa di hati.
Cucu Atuk.
Hi, good morning. I'm Amirul Aiman and you're watching ASEAN Kita, a show where we explore the stories, challenges and opportunities that lies within the region. So today we explore a bold idea, reimagining ASEAN as one seamless tourism destination. Can we move beyond national borders to offer travelers a truly regional experience, and what would it take to get it there? Joining me via Google Meet is Dr. Sri Ganesh, Secretary General of the Malaysian Tourism Federation, to help us break this down. Thank you, doctors, for joining us today. I'll straight away go to the question. The idea of ASEAN as one destination is often mentioned in strategies and meetings, but what does it really mean for travelers and also local industry players, especially small hotels and also SMEs? How can this concept be applied practically across ASEAN, ASEAN as a region and also ASEAN countries, Doctor?
Yeah, in practical terms, it means a seamless multi-country travel across ASEAN with coordinated promotion, simplified travel processes and integrated transportation. But on the ground, the biggest threat is fragmentation. Okay. Each country still operates in silos with differing regulations, marketing messages, and limited collaborations. Without a political will and industry alignment, the concept risks remaining actually a paper version only. It's just a vision on paper, but we don't see it's going towards orang kata action here.
Mm-hmm. And Doctor, if SMEs could change just one ASEAN rule tomorrow, which change would turn this concept into a reality, Doctor?
Okay, if they could actually collaborate. It's actually this, when it comes to countries, between countries, it's actually government to government. Okay, we industry players will follow the guidelines done by each of the government. Means if it's Malaysia, we as Malaysians, we will follow what Malaysia wants us to do and what law we need to follow. So it's basically the ASEAN countries themselves, and with Malaysia, the chair now, should actually sit down and discuss something to ensure that the regulations of each country on the travel and tourism is similar, is similar, which will enable the SMEs to come out or collaborate more with their neighboring partners.
And Doctor, Doctor, one major barrier to cross-border tourism is often mentioned is cost, and airport taxes, hotel charges, and visa fees vary widely across the region. Should ASEAN consider a standard cap or a harmonized approach to take multi-country trips more affordable, Doctor?
Yes, but it's easier said than done, you know. The disparity is actually a deterrent for travelers planning multi-country trips. Actually, if we see the tourists come from EU, they want to go to Thailand, then they will come to Malaysia, they want to go to Singapore, but this is what, so a regional cap would level the playing field actually, but government are still reluctant to let go of revenue streams. So they don't want to share the cake with the other Asian countries, you see. So the challenge is actually balancing affordability with national interests. So if not addressed, ASEAN actually will lose competitiveness to regions like the EU, and etc.
And Doctor, if a formal cap is unrealistic, would a single website per se that compares airport taxes and visa fees will be a simpler first step towards this idea, Doctor?
Yeah, actually, for sure, if we do a single website, of course, it will be a very good idea, whereby, but anyhow, it goes back to the countries themselves. So as an ASEAN chair, we should actually encourage the neighboring countries, the ASEAN countries, to actually build together, you know, come together with one solution. Means if you said a website, yes, a website, a portal, or anything, a system, which actually will work together with all the rules and regulations, products, you know, promotions in one. Yeah, then it will be a success. But the issue now is go back on regulations of each and every country, the laws of each and every country. So that is what actually deterring the plan of the ASEAN countries.
Mm-hmm. And Doctor, countries like Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia have built strong tourism brands. Is it possible to create a unified ASEAN identity without overshadowing these national efforts? And how can both levels of branding support each other instead of like competing with each other, Doctor?
Yeah, actually, this one we should see, right? Like we have Truly Asia, Amazing Thailand, a wonderful Indonesia, all these things. But the threat is actually the branding confusion. Okay. Instead of diluting national brands, we need to an umbrella ASEAN story first. Okay, one that positions Southeast Asia as a diverse, multi-stop experience. You know, coordination is the key lah, we can say. So the countries, all the ASEAN countries need to have a good coordination, and actually without a unified branding guideline and regional storytelling, the one destination campaign may end up competing rather than completing these national efforts, you know. So we don't want it to see competing. It must be just one, yeah. But whether this can go into a success is a discussion between all the ASEAN countries.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned just now that we should work together instead of competing with each other. But could a pool marketing fund, means that every country chipped in into the fund, be a workable way to keep both regional and national campaigns available or visible, Doctor?
Yeah, that's why we could say they have meetings, you know, they have the Asian Tourism Ministers meetings, they have a lot of meetings regarding tourism in the ASEAN community itself. So this should take this opportunity, the governments or the ministries or the ministers of each Asian countries should actually take this opportunity to discuss and come out with a solution, you see, and then go back to their country and get their promotional funds for the ASEAN region and also for their own national initiatives.
Mm-hmm. And Malaysia is strong in halal tourism while Thailand excels in medical travel. Are there other niche tourism areas that ASEAN can develop collectively? What could be our next big regional product eco-retreats, halal cruises, or maybe wellness clusters, Doctor?
Yeah, actually, I can say we actually risk missing the global niche tourism wave by working in silos. This is the issue actually. ASEAN has actually potential to lead in halal wellness tourism, tropical eco retreats, and heritage medical corridors. But cross-border product development is weak. Okay, it's very weak. So if you don't collaborate, especially on standards and certification, we actually will lose grounds to the regions that are already packing such offering holistically. Yeah, there are other regions who is doing this. They are working hard also. Every region in the world is working hard for tourism. But when we see we has a proper niche market, we should actually take this opportunity, you know, to promote. So ASEAN has, you know, Malaysia could partner with Thailand, and Thailand could partner with Indonesia, you know, all these things, and make it a very good package whereby tourists, not from the ASEAN country itself, but from the other regions of the world, to choose ASEAN as their tourism destination, because that side they have a different way of doing traveling. You know, summer traveling, you know, when that side is cold, they don't want to be in cold area, they will come here 1-2 months. So they will like to go in all the other countries. And also some people goes on working holiday where they go for travel while they work. The world has changed. Now it's all online. So the countries must actually prepare for them this. So they can go on holiday in all the ASEAN countries and also do their work while they are actually on vacation, you know.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned just now that we have to compete with other regions as well who have their own niche strategy in terms of this. Is there a region that we could learn that has successfully built a joint niche strategy that we could learn from, Doctor?
Yeah, actually we could see example I'm giving you. If we go to EU, you can go to our England, then you can go to France, you can go, you know, you see the packages is 7 countries in 10 days, you know. Mm-hmm. This is one thing, but ours could be 10 countries in 2 months, you see. So we could do better actually, because they want to see a different experience. Our weather is different, everything is different. Our food, our culture is different. So people from other regions will come to learn our culture. That is what we want actually.
Mm-hmm. And recently, Malaysia has waived visas for China and India to attract more tourists. Should ASEAN consider a more unified approach to visa-free travel? Would this encourage longer stays and multi-country itineraries across the region, Doctor?
Yeah, actually, the lack of a unified visa policy is one of ASEAN's biggest stumbling block, I can say. Yeah? If a traveler must actually apply separately for each country, it kills the momentum for multi-destination travel. Mm-hmm. You see, if you go to Thailand, you need a different visa. You go to, you know, Vietnam, a different thing, you know. So this is what ASEAN should be discussing. So a regional visa waiver, starting with strategic markets like China and India, is very critical actually. So without it, ASEAN cannot compete with Europe or even the Middle East. Yeah.
And if full visa free travel is too ambitious, Doctor, would a 30-day multi-entry sticker, for example, be a more useful halfway step there?
Yeah, we can actually go from 30 days to 90 days even. You see, 30 days to 90 days, maybe multi-entry, because some may come, example, to Singapore, because their flights with connectivity, you know, they need to come in back and go back. Certain countries may not have direct flight to their destination. So they need to look on that also, this part. So a multi-entry and a visa for multi-country ASEAN only with 90 days, I think is much good. It's very good already. So this is what the government should work. We has no power or anything to tell, but we can only suggest. But it goes back to the ASEAN ministers meeting, ASEAN meetings, with so many out there. They should be discussing on these kinds of policy and hope to see some success with their discussion, rather than we just listen a lot of discussions out there, but we don't see results coming in.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're just getting started on how can we reimagine ASEAN as a one destination on its tourism attraction. We'll take a quick break. More on ASEAN Kita after this.
Gempur diawani 7.45.
Di sinilah bermulanya legasi. Segalanya unggul, tersemat di hati. Permainan sepenuh jiwa dan raga kini melangkah ke arena dunia. Bakat kemahiran kini megah terserlah, meredap kencang, membenting padu. Setiap inci gerakan penuh mentafsir hati nurani. Aksi legasi kini mendominasi sangkop biji sepak takraw secara langsung di Astro.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro Awani menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Perusahaan kecil dan sederhana, impian besar. Jiwa SME Astro Awani kembali menjelajah Malaysia. Dari Ipoh ke Kota Kinabalu, dari Melaka ke Lembah Kelang. Sesi pitching, pameran produk dan dialog bersama pemimpin industri serantau. Dapatkan inspirasi, ilmu dan peluang untuk kembangkan perniagaan anda semuanya di bawah satu bumbung. Kerana inilah medan impak sebenar. Jiwa SME menjana impak, inovasi digital.
Welcome back. You're still watching ASEAN Kita. I'm Amir Rahman. Joining us is our guest, Dr. Sri Ganesh, Secretary of the Malaysian Tourism Federation. So we're still unpacking on how can we reimagine ASEAN as one destination in its tourism attraction. Doctor, let's pick up where we left off. We often focus on capital cities, but tourism growth also depends on smaller destinations. In your view, which second tier or maybe perhaps lesser known ASEAN cities have a strong potential? What's needed to bring them to life? Maybe better flights, marketing, or perhaps infrastructure, Doctor?
Yeah, actually, if you ask lesser known ASEAN cities, we can look like in Malaysia, we can see Sarawak, okay? Laos, Luang Prabang, Philippines, what they call it, Iloilo, something like that. You see, are rich actually in culture, cuisine, and eco attractions. Yeah, so but the threat is poor connectivity. Okay, they have nice destination, but poor connectivity and lack of coordinated marketing. Means the marketing between the ASEAN countries or even in their own country is very lack of marketing. So without regional air access policies and investments in the second tier airports, these gems will remain hidden from the global travelers' radar. So that's why ASEAN, if the tourists come from EU, example, comes to Singapore, and from Singapore, they need to have a good connectivity, flight connectivity to those second tier areas. You see? Yeah, so if they have too many connectivity, then it will make the tourists feel tired. Oh, I need to go to KL, then from KL, I need to go to Sarawak. You know, then from Sarawak, another flight into there. So this is something will make them feel tired. But if they have a longer period of time to be in ASEAN countries, then they would have, the connectivity should be discussed between the ASEAN countries from where to where and where to where. So this will actually give more opportunities to it.
And many local tourism players like homestays, cafes and guides miss out on regional tourism campaigns. How can ASEAN governments help include them more directly in promotional efforts, Doctor? What is needed to ensure they benefit alongside big brands and hotel chains?
Yeah, actually, the real risk is leaving SMEs behind. Currently, major players dominate regional exposure due to the funding and digital capabilities. Okay, they have good funding, they have good digital capabilities. So ASEAN actually needs a digital tourism marketplace, okay, that aggregates and promotes local experience actually. This is what we need first. Without this inclusivity, regional tourism growth will be top-heavy and unsustainable, leading to income inequality and community disengagement. Yeah, so this is what we need to look into. So how we promote them and how the SMEs can actually have a place to promote their products, and whatever they promote reach the tourists of the ASEAN community.
And Doctor, I would like to bring this discussion also to budget hotel sector across ASEAN, because we know when it comes to tourism, when it comes to tourists, they often pick budget hotel because it's much cheaper and it's much more reliable. And if we can see operating costs vary sharply between budget hotels in Hanoi and Jakarta and Manila, for example, because of local utility rates and also taxes. Maybe perhaps you could suggest what single regional policy could best narrow that cost gap and perhaps level the playing field across ASEAN, Doctor?
Yeah, if it comes to budget hotels, the governments should actually sit down and come with a better policy to ensure the sustainability of the budget hotels. That is something very important, that all the government in the ASEAN countries should sit down and come out with a proper policy. The issue now is the threats of the industry of the budget hotels. So that will increase their operational costs, hence make them to sell at a more higher price. So the tourists who comes to ASEAN, which wants to sit or stay in a cheaper rate hotel, and they can, be in the ASEAN region for a longer period, they wouldn't stay in higher range hotel. They will prefer a lower rate hotel, but they can stay for a longer period. You see, so we should cater all segments of tourists. So when they stay in budget hotels, they need a good price. But the issue is facing the budget hotels segment or in all the ASEAN countries is the threats of the industry and unlevel playing field. So when you said level playing field, actually is because of the unlevel playing field, whereby we still allow the country still don't regulate short-term rental accommodations, OTA issues, so what are the difference of operational costs for a budget hotel and a higher rate hotel? So when a budget hotel, they needs to have a lower operational cost to give back a very affordable cost to the tourists who comes to their country.
And when you mentioned rivals and competition, we often see competition from homestays and also Airbnb is eating into budget hotel market share. What incentives or collaboration that could turn these segments into partners than rivals, Doctor?
Okay, it's just about regulations. We are licensed accommodation providers, and they are unlicensed accommodation providers. So we just want them to be regulated by a law and to ensure that everything they do follow is a fair level playing field for both parties. Okay, so they cannot, they need to follow certain regulations to enable them to ensure that property they do to be sold as a tourist accommodation. We don't want to have a tourist staying in a unit, short-term rental accommodation unit, STRA unit, and having a fight with a neighbor. You see, because the neighbor are the owners of the property, and they are just tourists staying as a neighbor, and tomorrow they go and a new person comes in. So this kind of regulation should be done, should have. So if there are these kinds of issues arose, then that particular country will be digital world, people will start spreading reviews. And instead of, it's because of this STRA, it will affect the budget hotel or the hotel industries at the whole.
And Doctor, when we mentioned about budget hotels, workforce mobility is a challenge. Budget hotels rely on multitasking staff who frequently leave the industries. Malaysia, as a chair of ASEAN this year, what could we do to ensure this problem or to fill the shortages of hospitality skills in the country, that we can lead the other countries in ASEAN as well to ensure this problem is not damaging the budget hotel industry across the region, Doctor?
Yeah, actually, there are some good countries where we can see they have very good hospitality skills. Okay, so every of the ASEAN countries should discuss. They have their universities, they have their educational colleges in every countries. So should be discussed to get these students from any of the ASEAN countries, and they should be able to work in any of the ASEAN countries. You see? So they should share the workforce and skills between the ASEAN countries. And we also could to exchange culture and train them about our example coming to Malaysia to work. So they will learn the Malaysian culture. And when they go to Thailand, they will learn the Thailand culture, you know. But end up is just one, it's about hospitality.
And you mentioned before that ratings are often shared by the tourists. Should ASEAN introduce a dedicated a rating system of a budget hotel classification with realistic criteria, cleanliness, safety, and basic digital amenities tailored for smaller properties, Doctor, to make sure it's easier for tourists to compare and contrast which hotels or accommodation they would like to stay in?
Yeah, actually, we have ASEAN standards. Hotels, you know, it's just about ASEAN standards. Even a budget hotel, as long they fulfill the standards of cleanliness, of services provided, of digitalization, it's just same. The tourists will understand that. So it's about the operator to learn the standards and follow the standards with the guidance of each country's ministries and agencies, and including associations, you see.
And Dr. Malaysia is chairing ASEAN in 2025. If there's one tourism initiative you think we should lead to push the ASEAN as a one destination agenda, what would it be, and why would it matter most right now?
Yeah, Malaysia actually should push for an ASEAN travel pass. Okay, as the chair, they should push for ASEAN travel pass, a unified digital platform offering visa facilitation, regional travel packages, and local offering listing. You see, it must actually be inclusive of the SMEs, especially the SMEs. So this single move actually can bridge policy gaps, enhance connectivity, and democratize access to regional tourism benefits. If we fail to act now, ASEAN may lose its tourism edge and more integrated regions. So we hope that Malaysia, as the chair for ASEAN 2025, to work hard and take action, and don't wait for the next chair to move, and another 10 years we will be chairing it with the same agenda again.
Well, that's all the time that we have for today's episode of ASEAN Kita. We would like to thank Dr. Sri Ganesh, Secretary General of the Malaysian Tourism Federation, for his insights. I guess that's all the time that we have for today's episode. I'm Amir Rahman. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care and see you again on ASEAN Kita.